The old slogan was, "Where's the beef?" I got to tell you, in a span of a few days, Auburn has added some beef to the defensive front and some lean beef, well, let's just get into it. He's Zach Blackerby. I'm Brad Law. Thanks for watching Village Vice. Zach, this coaching staff wanted to go out and add some defensive linemen in the transfer portal. So you know what they did? They didn't talk about adding defensive linemen. They just went out and done it over the course of a weekend.
Yeah, there's a bunch of dudes where it's like, man, if they got this guy, then maybe some other pieces, it'd be great. Well, they got all the priorities. They got Philip Blidi, the former Texas Tech and Indiana defensive lineman. I think he's got a chance to start at the 3 technique. They went out and got Isaiah Raikes, who played a lot at Texas A&M, who, by the way, was under DJ Durkin's leadership when he was the defensive coordinator there. And then my favorite guy in the portal was Keyron Crawford, the edge rusher from Arkansas State. I think he was a prized pass rusher, which is one of the most important things you can have on your football team.
Yeah.
And Auburn was able to get him with the sales pitch of, you're not going to be the guy. You're going to be a piece to complement what Jalen McLeod is coming back to Auburn. And so he's got 2 years left of eligibility. And it's just, what they've done the last 2 days is great in several different ways, Brad. One is the immediate impact, which, okay, you now feel so much better, whether they're starters or backups, it doesn't matter. You feel good about now your top 8 to 10 defensive linemen on Auburn's roster. And it's a nice mix of age and youth.
Yep.
And then obviously from a Buck linebacker standpoint, you obviously feel good about Jalen McLeod. You feel better about Keyron Crawford, and then they've got some young guys coming in behind them. But they also balance the eligibility and age aspect. And this is where the roster management side of things, I think, is really intriguing. And this is one of the tougher things to navigate, I would guess, as a football coach, because you don't fully know who's going to stay or who's going to go. But with the defensive line, where they've got a bunch of dudes who are younger, and this 2024 class is so important. It's so important, Brad. Well, now you don't have to worry about any of these guys being upset because, well, your spot's jeopardized in the future. No, because these guys are seniors. These interior dudes are seniors. And so you could still go to Malik Blockton, Philip Lindsay, or whoever it may be and say, hey, your path is still the same. Then with the Jack linebacker situation, you've got Jalen McLeod, think Keyron Crawford, and then Jamonta Waller and Joe Phillips. Next year, you have Crawford, Waller and Phillips, and then JJ Falk. And then once those guys leave, it's like all of a sudden you've actually got like a pecking order and like a clear path to the future at the position. Like, oh, what a good program does. They nailed it with this, Brad. I mean, there's just not an aspect of this that I don't like.
I want you to compare because I think there are comparisons in terms of the structure, not in terms of talent, but to the addition of a Justin Rogers and Lawrence Johnson from a year ago, 2 interior defensive linemen, upperclassmen. You kind of thought you would have these guys for 1 year and then they would move on either out of eligibility or, give it a shot in the NFL draft. It didn't impact the 24 recruiting class at all because it was the exact same structure that you're talking about. We're going to have these are short-term gap fillers for the 2023 season. You're going to come in 24 and you're going to have your impact. I think it's the same selling point in terms of the interior D linemen that you have now in the 25 class. So you're talking to 26 guys. You can still highlight the youth for the guys that are coming up in the recruiting cycles. You can still highlight the amount of youth and playing time that'll be there in 1 to 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, the way that they've balanced win now versus also win later and build the program is huge. And they've been consistent with this messaging. Hugh Freeze has said over and over and over again, we're going to build Auburn back to where it needs to be by recruiting high school kids. And I think going out and getting these guys via the portal still matches with all of that. It's just we haven't been here long enough for the high school kids that we recruited to be old enough to be competitive in the SEC. We're just not quite there yet. They're getting there, and you can see the path to it where you kind of project this roster into next year, and it's like, you kind of see who's going to be the potential starters at all these spots. They're building the program the right way. As far as impact, though, in 2024, Brad, we talked about Philip Blidi. he and Gage Keys are going to battle it out for that 3 technique spot. Malik Blockton will be a part of that conversation to an extent. I do think it's going to come down to Gage Keys or Philip Blidi. Isaiah Raikes is super interesting to me.
Yeah, I think so too. He's a versatile guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He is. He played like 80 or 90 snaps at nose, and then he played like 100-ish snaps at defensive tackle. And it seemed like when you look at his splits and his game log, as far as where he lined up, it was by game. And so there'd be games where he played a lot of nose. There'd be games where he played a lot of 3 technique, which tells you it's all about the game plan. And who's writing that game plan? Well, it's DJ Durkin. And so he already knows how to use him. I do wonder, though, if they were to scoot him out to the 3 technique in certain situations, is a Blidi a guy that could back up Keldrick Falk at that 5 technique if you needed him to? There's some movement along this defensive line, which I think is crucial. And all because you feel good about the 2 deep before you added Raikes. You feel good about the 2 deep at nose with Jason Jones and Trill Carter, whatever order you want to put them in. That's my order right now. Then the 3 technique of Gage Keys and Philip Blidi. And then you've got Raikes, who could do both of those things. Now, at the 5 technique, Keldrick's your starter. Keldrick Falk is your starter. And we're just kind of waiting to see who else is going to be there. Is TJ Lindsey seen as a 5 technique? That true defensive end? Is it Amaris Williams that's going to be the backup? Is it Zacchaeus Walker? We've said his name every offseason for 3 or 4 years now, it seems. Yeah. It's finally the year where he does that. To me, I think he's a little big for that position, but we'll see. I don't know. They didn't move him. It seems like that's where he is, so that's where this coaching staff wants him to be. But could a Blidi be like a potential starter or backup for the 3 technique and then also be a backup at the 5? I think so. We kind of saw this with Messiah Nasili Kite, the transfer from Maryland last year before he got hurt. Could be a very similar role. The fact that they have all these options, though, Brad, is huge. They didn't have this 48 hours ago, and they have it now.
Yeah, they do. I like to talk about it like you're playing a poker game, and this gets you a seat at the table, right? So how much does scheme matter relative to talent? I think every coach talks about how you got to have the talent in order to consistently compete. But what this does now is it gives you the bodies, it gives you the depth, it gives you guys. Neither one of these guys were brought in, I don't think, to play 60 snaps a game. These guys on the interior defense line. We're going to talk about Crawford in a minute because I think that's a separate kind of deal, and we're going to talk about the potential impact there. But your interior D linemen now give you the depth to have a seat at the table, to be able to ante up and to push in and to give you a chance consistently with the schedule that you play, the physicality. Even early in the year, Arkansas may have had its struggles offensively. Their linemen are always like 6'5", 340-pound, just physical, nasty road grader type of offensive lineman. Oklahoma's replacing its entire offensive line. You got an idea they're going to be kind of the same type of lineman. Do you have teams that throw it a lot, teams that run it a lot? The types of versatile, varying offensive lines you play in the SEC require more than 2 guys at both of those interior D-line positions. And they require you to have some versatility. Yeah. And Auburn has that now. It evens the talent gap a little more, not just with the Arkansas and the Oklahomas on the schedule, but with all, it gets you closer with the other teams on the schedule too.
Yeah, I think so. Especially the toss-up games. It's like and the more important games on the schedule are the ones it's like, wow, if Auburn could win this, it would really change things. Like you mentioned, Arkansas. I think that's one most people think Auburn's going to win that one at home. But Oklahoma isn't that way. I think that one's pretty split. Oklahoma's a team that's replacing their offensive line. Like literally, I think they're replacing all 5 starters, new quarterback. It's going to be their first road game in the SEC after an emotional game. What I assume will be an emotional game against Tennessee the week before. Well, now you feel better about that matchup between their defensive line and their new offensive line. And it's at Jordan Hare Stadium. Yeah, why not? Why not?
Absolutely.
And then, going on the road to Kentucky, I don't trust Kentucky's passing game. I don't trust their quarterback. I'm not there yet. I need to see it. And so that's going to be a team that's going to need to run the football. Then obviously Texas A&M towards the end of the season before they play Alabama. It's like, well, that's one that you got to think. You got to think the defensive coordinator is going to be a little juiced for that one. And I got to feel they're going to have to run the football as well. And so what does that defensive line look like in those scenarios with Durkin's scheme, because he's going to pay a little bit extra attention to that one. Just a guess. Yeah. But those are all toss-up games, Brad, for different reasons. And it's like, if you could somehow win 2 of those 3, wow, does it totally change? It totally changes the entire season.
Absolutely does. We're going to talk more about that. We're going to talk about Keyron Crawford's impact on that as well here on Village Vice after I tell you a little bit about Rowback. We love Rowback here on Village Vice, and I'm telling you, you will too. If you have not tried them yet, we're going to give you an opportunity to try Rowback. Get a 20% discount when you use our code VICE20, VICE20 at rowback.com, RHOBACK. Performance polos. They are hands down the best polos out there. You will not find a better looking, better fitting performance polo. The performance hoodies are the most comfortable hoodies out there. They're lightweight. They're also really soft, so you're not going to want to take them off.
Is that why you've kept mine? Is that why you haven't given it to me yet?
No, look, I've tried to get you your stuff.
Whatever.
I've tried. I actually put on one of the performance hoodies to go to dinner with the kids last night. I almost slept in it. It was that comfortable. Okay. So again, 20% off when you use our code. Make sure you use our code VICE20 when you go to rowback.com and see for yourself.
That was it. We're just done. That was such an abrupt ending to the read. I didn't see that coming.
It was emphatic. See for yourself. Practiced that a long time in the mirror today. Can you tell?
Hey, you did a great job. Yeah, Keyron Crawford, like I said, I'm not exaggerating when I say this. My favorite player in the portal. And I think it's because of a few reasons. One, it's a position of need for Auburn. 2, like there were just pictures of like people posting pictures of this kid when national and local media were putting in all the crystal balls and the predictions. And it's like, there's a picture of him going around where he's in like Arkansas State shirt. It's like he's just got done with practice or something. This is a svelte human being. It's like, you do not belong at Arkansas State. Come on to the SEC. We've got room for you. But the fact that they were able to get one of the best pass rushers in the portal and say, hey, you're not going to be the guy, when I'm sure several other players or places were saying, hey, you can be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it says a few things. One, Auburn either like made that pitch to him to where he was able to say, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Or 2, he's the kind of guy who mentally is like, maybe I'm not quite ready to be the guy in the SEC. So I'm the guy at a Sun Belt school. I'm going to be the number 2 guy in the pass rush at an SEC school. The next year, I'm going to be the guy rushing the passer. And just it takes some maturity and some self-awareness for that. And so to me, I love that mental aspect of it. I love the physical aspect that he brings. And it's just, as far as putting all the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah.
In Auburn's buck room, it's just, I don't know. I'm really excited about Crawford.
You're giddy about Keyron Crawford. And that's okay, because it's like, we come on the show and we understand, like we know our audience, but we don't try to paint every incoming player out to be Reggie White. Not every incoming buck is Carl Lawson. Like we understand that. But it's hard not to get excited about Keyron Crawford. This is a guy that was a 3-star prospect coming out of high school. You say, well, why would we get excited about that? Because they only played 1 year of high school football. He was a basketball player, played 1 year of football, was selected to the state all-star game, is still fairly raw and developing at that position. Not all that dissimilar to, it's not the same as, like Jalen McLeod came from App State, but he was getting D1 attention. He was getting a lot of attention from other power conference schools before he kind of fell to App State. No disrespect.
Well, and Keyron had offers from Iowa and Nebraska, I believe. And we don't know why he picked Arkansas State. I assume path to playing time was probably a factor. Just a guess. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, this is a guy that he had a ton of schools reach out to him as soon as he entered the portal. Like, this is probably the best pass rusher in the portal. I don't care what anybody else says. I'm telling you. Village Vice is telling you.
Yeah.
And Auburn was able to pitch him and say, hey, come be the number 2 guy to Jalen McLeod. And I just can't wait to see what they do with him, like how often they're on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
Or, can both of these two bucks also like coexist with Keldrick. Like, what does that look like? Do they scoot him in? Like, there's just some stuff you could do that could create a lot of problems. And DJ Durkin is a pretty creative guy. So I can't wait to see what this looks like.
Speaking of versatility, now when we talk about the defensive front, possible pass rushing situations against run-heavy teams, pass-heavy teams, screen plays, drop-back passers, you feel like you have artillery against any kind of offense that you're going to face on the schedule. Mm-hmm. And the other element of this, by the way, is you kind of touched on it in the beginning, but I want to highlight it again. The fact that the coaching staff went out, made no bones about the fact that D-line is an area where they've got to improve. So they did. And they hit on their biggest targets.
Well, isn't that something that they've done every portal window since they've been here?
Yeah.
I mean, Hugh Freeze he was here for 5 minutes and he said, wow, we need to fix the O-line. So they go out and get Dylan Wade and Gunnar Britton and Avery Jones.
Cinda and Avery Jones, yeah.
Yeah. And okay, that was what they did in their first window, that first December that he was here. They go through spring and they're like, wow, these receivers in this passing game ain't it. And so they go out and get Peyton Thorne. They go out and get some receivers that probably didn't live up to the hype, and part of that's maybe on us. I don't know, but I think they did as best as they possibly could in that situation. And then this past December, like, okay, all right, we need to fix. We're not quite there with the receivers. So yes, we've got the Freeze 4 that's coming in with all these talented freshmen, but we need a little bit more. So they go out and get Robert Lewis. They go out and get Sam Jackson. It's like, okay, that room looks pretty good now. Like they've really transformed that room. The linemen still look pretty good up front on offense. They go through spring. Defensive line still not quite there. It's still not quite there. Well, now all of a sudden you look at it, it's like, wow, what these three guys did to that room totally changes it.
Yeah.
And so props to this staff who now has a track record of saying, hey, if there are issues, we are going to address it. They may miss, right? And I don't know what their expectations were for some of these receivers they brought in last year.
Yeah.
Your Jair Shorters, your Nick Martiners, your Shane Hooks. Like maybe they expected this and they were just taking a lottery pick and a flyer on it. We don't know. But the fact that they tried, the fact that they did something about it, I think is huge. I mean, how often did we see over the last 10 years of Auburn before Hugh Freeze got here? And Harsin is what he is. And I love Gus Malzahn, but I mean, how many times would there be a glaring issue with the roster? And it's just like, I don't know. Maybe we could just change it. Can you change positions and you try it? I mean, that's what they did with offensive tackles for forever. It's like, okay, you play defensive line. You've gone up against a tackle. Can you play offensive tackle? I mean, we did that for like 5 years, Brad. It was insane. Yeah. And so now you've got a staff that understands how to like list priorities and then actually go out and execute. It's huge. This is a big deal. Yeah. This is a big deal for Auburn.
Yeah, we've talked about this for over a year now, the fact that the staff has a plan. They communicate the plan. If you listen to them talk, they don't hide their plan. Because of this, I would expect another receiver that we all feel pretty good about to be included in the portal class, whoever that may be, because that's another area that they mentioned they need a little bit more, maybe not 3, but a little more help.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about what could be next.
All right.
Let's speculate, pontificate, project, predict. Coming up on Village Vice. Today's show brought to you by our friends at mybookie.ag. It's the best place to wager on all of your sports action, regardless of where you live. Oh, I can't do this because I live in whatever state. They don't care. I don't know how. They just do it. You can bet anywhere. mybookie.ag. Use promo code NEXTROUND to get some extra money thrown your way for free, courtesy of our friends at MyBookie. Makes a very fun sound when you do it. What's the sound that it makes when you use promo code NEXTROUND at mybookie.ag, Brad?
Bloop, bloop.
There you go. So yeah, be sure to check out our friends at mybookie.ag. Use promo code NEXTROUND. You mentioned it. I mean, I think Auburn's going to get a wide receiver or some sort of option in the passing game. You saw Jay Fair leave. There's still rumors and speculation that other wide receivers may leave. You're going to need more bodies in the room. So we'll see if it's a top tier wide receiver or a guy that could be like maybe a sophomore or a junior that's got multiple years left of eligibility. We'll see kind of what they do in that regard, because that is an aspect in all of this.
Yeah.
And then I think you see one more defensive player whether it's a linebacker or a defensive back, I think you're going to see one wide receiver, and I think you'll see one, if I had to guess, linebacker moving forward.
Which would kind of correspond with the last two guys to enter the portal, the last two roster spots to open up. They had mentioned receiver anyway after A-Day, but, Jay Fair is not a small piece. He had 31 catches, over 300 yards. He was in the upper tier of your receivers a year ago. And he's a good football player. He's a real, and would have been on this team a key depth piece, I think, in 2024. So
or maybe a starter. He may have started at the slot. I mean, it seemed like Robert Lewis and Sam Jackson were kind of leading the charge, but was that because Jay missed a chunk of spring because of injury? We don't know.
Right.
But yeah, I'm with you. He would have certainly been a part of the offense.
Right. And then Wesley Steiner, the latest to enter the portal as well. That would make sense. If you need another body in that room and you're going to, it's a physical position. Guys are prone to injuries throughout the course of the season. You got 6 straight games before a bye week, including 3 SEC games in a row. So, you need that. You need it in this league.
That's right. That's right. And here's what we need you to do. We need you to like the video. Please click subscribe. If you're feeling generous, we're still working on some content to put behind, for a special group of folks. But if you want to consider joining, just click that join button down below to become a member of this page. We were talking with some of the folks. We're working on some cool content to send y'all's way. So please consider doing that. Or if you just want to support the show, that would be huge too. But please do that. In the meantime, Brad, that about does it for today's show.
It does. Thanks everybody for watching as always. And remember, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.